Hi, and welcome to a sound clip from our Bible study discussions every Tuesday night from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in Pakalani. Please enjoy.
Today I'm going to share, and like I said, we've been trying to be consistent somewhat on a quarterly basis to make sure that we share something that we can discuss at length. So if you remember, in the first quarter, we talked about prayers. And what we said about prayers is it's a fundamental part of our faith. It's a fundamental part of our walk with Christ. I was reflecting on it today and I was thinking prayers are actually older than the Bible. Prayers are older than the Pentateuch. Before the written word, there was prayer. So it's very keen. It's a very, very important part of our walk with Christ that we should be keen on. And what we did in the first quarter is we examined some prayers that are actually written in the Bible, and we learned from them. In the second quarter, we talked about Jesus coming with grace and truth. We talked about the fact that if you are a Christian, if you love Jesus, then you love grace, you love truth. You can't separate him from grace and truth. And then today, we're going to finish off our third quarter discussion on wisdom. We looked at the book of Proverbs and looked at one or two other isolated scriptures that can teach us something about wisdom. So when we started, we said, why is it important to be wise? Why is wisdom important? And to answer that question, we looked at chapter 2 of Proverbs, verse 5. Let me just check quickly if we can recap for those that were not here. Why is wisdom important? So if you look in your Bible, some of you have a title there. I think mine was written, The Importance of Wisdom. But chapter 2, verse 5, why is wisdom important? It says, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. So why is wisdom important? Wisdom is important because it helps you to know God. There's a word Nomsa has refashioned that I'm enjoying lately. Wisdom is a technology to know God. Right? That's what chapter 2 verse 5 is saying. Another one that we highlighted. These are not the only reasons wisdom is important, but these are the ones we discussed. Verse 9, then you will understand righteousness, justice, equity, and every good path. Why is wisdom important? Wisdom is important because it helps you understand righteousness. What is right? Wisdom helps you understand what is just. Wisdom helps you understand what is equitable. Wisdom helps you understand every good path. And we are all on paths somewhere. And if there's good paths, that means there's what? Bad paths. Right? We've all been, okay, let me not make assumptions. I was going to say we've all been on a bad path to a life partner. We've all been on a bad path to... Hey, okay, sorry, it's just me. But anyway, there is bad paths to a goal that is good. You can have a goal that's good, whether it's a spiritual goal or it's a mundane one like a career path. Wisdom helps you understand every good path. And then in the second version, this recap is long. Sorry guys, I'm almost done. In the second installment, we answered the question, how did you become wise? Okay, we understand the importance of wisdom, but we said, how do we become wise? I'm going to just quickly go through them. We said, number one, you fear God. All right, Proverbs 9 verse 10 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. You fear God to become wise. Number two, you take advice. Proverbs 19 verse 20 says, listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise. right? You fear God, you take advice. 3, you walk with the wise. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. That's Proverbs 13, verse 20. Then lastly, how do you become wise? Number your days. Psalms 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Fear God, take advice, walk with the wise, number your days. So we're closing our discussion on wisdom today by looking at a couple of scriptures that are now just explicitly throwing wisdom at us. That's what I love about the book of Proverbs in particular, which we're going to focus on. You don't have to guess much as to what is being said. It's right, straight, and direct. Just offering you wise advice. Right? So I think I looked it up. Apparently there's close to 900 wise sayings in Proverbs alone. We can't finish them. So I'm going to go through 4 different categories I enjoyed reading through, right? The first category, the tongue. The second category, work ethic. And then the third category, surrender to God. All right, so let's start with the tongue. If you are on the WhatsApp group, I forwarded scriptures for each of these categories. We're going to start with Proverbs 10, verse 19. And if you don't have WhatsApp, or if you're not on the WhatsApp group, so these are the 2 ones for the tongue. Proverbs 10, 19 and Proverbs 12, 18. All right, let me give you some time to get there. Proverbs 10, verse 19 and Proverbs 12, verse 18. All right. If we are all there, let me get a volunteer to read. I've spoken too much. I need a break. Is anybody going to read?
Proverbs 10:19 says, "In the multitude of words sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise."
Come on. My version says, when words are many, sin is avoidable. But he who is unavoidable. Someone's paying attention. Yes. When words are many, sin is unavoidable. But he who restrains his lips is wise. Okay, the second one?
Proverbs 12:18 says, "There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise prompts health."
The version I have here says, "The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing." If there's something the majority of the world has in common, I mean, there are people who can't speak, but if there's something the majority of us in this room have in common is we speak. So if there's a wise saying that's important here, or if there are wise proverbs that we can take to heart, here they are. I came to thinking about it, and I was thinking about how wars have begun because of the tongue. Fights have begun because of the tongue. Hatred has begun because of the tongue. But at the same time, people have been restored because of the tongue. People have been built up because of the tongue. Healing has come. Refreshing has come. Have you ever had like a refreshing conversation with a wise friend? All you did is speak. Or all they did is speak and you listened. James chapter 3 talks at length when it comes to the tongue. It talks about how it's like a rudder that is very small, but it can sway an entire ship. Very, very important, very, very pivotal, very, very powerful. So in our discussion later, let's talk a bit about this. how relevant is this proverb to us? Or now we're fine. Yeah, these proverbs concerning the tongue, for me, are very, very pivotal. Let's continue. The second category, work ethic. Who's going to read for us? Proverbs 12, verse 11. Proverbs 14, verse 23. Proverbs 20, verse 17.
Proverbs 12, verse 11. A hard worker has plenty of food, but a person who chases fantasies has no sense.
Proverbs 14, verse 23. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads to poverty.
Proverbs 20, verse 17. Food gained by fraud tastes sweet, but one ends up with a mouthful of gravel.
I don't want to take all the discussion points. We'll talk about this in the discussion, but one thing I will highlight that I saw this, for some reason, I was fixated on that word profit. All hard work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. And it got me thinking, what's the definition of profit? There's the accounting definition, but then there's the pedestrian definition. You have profited when you've gained more than you've spent. That's how I see it. And I was persuaded when I read this to think not only quantitatively, but qualitatively. That if you do hard work, if you go the hard way, if you do what's difficult, it will be profitable. You would have spent some emotion. You would have spent some time. You would have spent whatever it is that you have to spend. You would have spent humility. Maybe you have to humble yourself. That's what you've spent. It's hard. But all hard work leads to profit. I didn't want to fixate and think only when it comes to career-wise. I looked at it qualitatively, like I said, and it made me think about topics such as forgiveness. It made me think about topics such as relationships. When you're building a relationship, whether it's for work or it's for social, all hard work leads to profit. Anytime you have to work harder than what is easy. If it's really worth it, if it's within God's will, if it's good for you, it will be profitable. And then the last one before, did I skip one? Yes. Surrender to God's will. These are proverbs that kind of talk around surrender to God's will. Proverbs 19, verse 21. Proverbs 16, verse 9. And Proverbs 21, verse 31.
Proverbs 19:21. Many plans are in a man's mind, but it is the Lord's purpose for him that will stand.
Proverbs 16, verse 9. Who has it?
A person may plan his own journey, but the Lord directs his steps.
21, verse 31. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. I was compelled to include these wise sayings because I think in adulthood I've learned you can't fight God and win. You can't fight God and win. And what I'm learning is wisdom. If you want to apply wisdom, always have your eyes open, your ears open, your heart open, your mind open for what is God doing in this time. What is God doing in this journey that I'm on? What is God doing in this situation that's facing me? Because even if it's not particularly because you are lost and you shouldn't be on that journey, you're supposed to be there. But if I look at the last proverb we read, maybe you are relying on the horse. Maybe you are relying on a certain technology or a certain avenue for victory. But God has other ideas as to how certain battles need to be won. And one thing I've learned is, like I said, the more you keep your eyes open, your mind open, your heart open, your ears open, your emotions open, to say, okay, we may fight this, but the battle is whose? The Lord's. Let me trust in God and what He wants to do and how He wants me to come out of this, no matter how it's looking. And I mean, like I said, in adulthood, we all had an idea of where we're going to be by 34. We all had an idea of where we're going to be by 25. And when it's not looking like that, you start to say, but God, that's us planning, right? Many other plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. That's 19 verse 21. So in short, you save yourself a lot of stress, Save yourself a lot of stress, save yourself a lot of depression, a lot of disappointment when you have this outlook. It's okay to have goals. It's my preference to have a plan. You will never catch me without a plan. I will have a plan. But my eyes are open. My ears are open. And even when I make that plan, I am drafting that plan with God. To say, God, I'm not going to draft this plan on my own and say, yeah, look how brilliant I am. Come along, let's go. I don't think that's how it works. You plan with Him. Because like I said at the beginning, for this section, for surrender to God's will, you can't fight God and win. You will lose, Sham. So yeah, these are the three categories of proverbs that I wanted us to discuss today. The tongue, work ethic, and surrender to God's will. What are your thoughts? The floor is open.
Thank you for taking your time to listen in. Feel free to add your thoughts in the comment section or join us in person if and when you can. May God bless you.